Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down a huge severe weather event that's coming to the United States next week. And this storm is going to cause a lot of problems because this storm will bring the potential for damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes to a large chunk of the United States. In addition to this, we're going to be watching for the threat of a winter storm back over in parts of the northern plains and perhaps even the Midwest. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, and let's begin first with what's happening across the United States today. And we will begin with the east coast of the United States, and this is an area that is actually quite active right now. You do have a storm that is marching across the Ohio Valley in the mid-Atlantic region. Notice on the infrared imagery we do have some showers and also perhaps a few thunderstorms ongoing in parts of the Ohio Valley. Primarily the lower Ohio Valley is where any thunderstorms will be located right now, but all this activity will continue to move to the east over the next 24 to 48 hours, and we'll be watching for some showers and a few thunderstorms along the immediate east coast as we go into tomorrow and as well as early Saturday. In addition to this, there is actually an Arctic air mass that's back up in Canada. This will siphon a little bit into parts of the northeast United States later tonight all the way into tomorrow, so colder weather is ahead for some of you, but not everybody. Mainly upstate New York back into northern New England, you'll have the best chance of at least seeing some frigid weather as we go closer to the weekend, so be mindful of that. In addition to that, there will be some snowfall, but overall no winter storm right now is in the forecast. Back over in the Great Plains, it is very quiet right now, but that will not last as we go into next week because that large storm that's on the horizon will bring some problems here to parts of the Great Plains. We'll have more details on that here in just a couple minutes. And back over on the west coast of the United States, it's actually very quiet right now. It's been a very active last couple of months with being hammered with lots of rain from atmospheric rivers. That as of right now has kind of winded down, at least temporarily. So if you're back over in California, you don't have to worry about heavy rainfall at least today or tomorrow. Now let's talk more about the weather pattern that'll be impacting the United States over the next 10 days, in addition to the large storm that's coming to the United States. And to look at that, we are going to look at the jet stream. This gives us an idea of the weather patterns that are happening across the United States in the upper levels. And notice this as we go into Friday. We are going to have a low pressure system again moving across the Ohio Valley, and this storm in particular is actually quite large. Even though it's not bringing any major impacts, we are going to have a lot of rain across the east coast of the United States over the next 24 to 48 hours, in addition to some snowfall back over into New England. Once we go into Friday and a Saturday, that jet stream is actually going to start to intensify back down in the southeast, and what this will allow for is some turbulence. If you're on an airplane, for example, traveling Friday night or Saturday, there will be an increased amount of turbulence going north to south or south to north, so just be mindful of that if you're traveling. On the flip side of things, the Arctic air mass will start to move into the northeast, and that is where colder weather will start to usher in. By the time we go into Sunday into Monday, that cold air will start to move out, and eventually going into Monday into Tuesday, we will have some ridging building across much of the Great Plains and as well as back into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. What that means is that drier and also way warmer weather is going to be coming to much of the country. Now, what do I mean by way warmer? We will have some areas as much as 35 degrees above average next week. We have a chance to see record-breaking high temperatures, which is just quite remarkable for this time of the year. I mean, we are talking about a serious heat wave in the month of February, which just doesn't happen very often. But once we go into Tuesday into Wednesday, what we need to watch for is a low pressure system that'll come from the Pacific Ocean. This will go over the Rocky Mountains, and this is actually a pretty dynamic storm, at least what's being forecasted right now, because we are going to have a very strong southwesterly flow, meaning that the jet stream is going to be very strong, and it's going to be capable of producing the potential for a pretty large severe weather event anywhere from the Midwest back into the southern plains. And so this storm is actually going to have a lot of different ingredients available, and that includes a lot of moisture, strong low-level winds, a lot of veering as well in the atmosphere, which does help to increase the rotation in supercells. So just a lot of different ingredients, and we'll be going over those here in just a few minutes. And then once we go into Thursday into Friday, that large storm will move off to the north and east and eventually into areas like New England. And in addition to that, there will be the potential for some snow on the back side of this, and we'll discuss where that exactly will fall here in just a second. One other thing I wanted to point out is that the jet stream will be a meridional jet stream, which is something we've not really seen a whole lot of recently, at least this definitive, and this is going to be a pretty definitive meridional jet stream. That essentially means there's a lot more curvature in the jet stream. A zonal jet stream would be more straight like this, but it'd be going further across the United States or Canada, whichever one it's in. So just kind of a little thing to reference at this point in terms of the jet stream. Now, I mentioned that there is going to be some severe weather next week, so let's hop right into what that looks like as we go into next next week. Beginning with Tuesday, the Storm Prediction Center has already issued a slight risk of severe weather. That is a 2 out of 5 on the scale, meaning we're kind of on the low to medium side of severe weather threat. But with that being said, this could easily get upgraded as we get closer. Right now, there is a slight risk of severe weather from the Chicago suburbs, which again is rare for February, all the way back into northeast Texas. This is mainly for the threat of damaging winds, large hail, and as well as the threat of a few tornadoes. The specific details, including where the greatest threat of severe weather will be, is still a bit uncertain. But we're not done on Tuesday. Wednesday, we also have another threat of severe weather, and that is another slight risk of severe weather, which is again a 2 out of 5 on the scale. We do have a slight risk of severe weather from the Ohio Valley, including areas near Cleveland and Columbus, all the way back into the lower Dixie Alley. This includes areas like Mississippi and Alabama. The main concern again will be damaging winds with the threat of a few tornadoes. I do think the threat of severe weather will be a bit higher on Wednesday comparatively to Tuesday, but with that being said, you should still be weather aware on both days. Now let's hop into the future radar, give you an idea of what that storm will be doing next week. But I do want to point out the storm that's ongoing on the East Coast today and tomorrow will continue to bring some showers and thunderstorms all the way through tomorrow morning. Most of the rain will move off coast by tomorrow evening. There will still be a little bit of snow left in New England, but overall nothing too crazy. Perhaps a little bit of snow as we go into Saturday morning from Indiana back into Kentucky, maybe even North Carolina and then the higher elevations. And then once we go into Monday into Tuesday, things stay dry for most of the country. There will be the potential for snow back up in Canada, but really not impacting the northern tier of the United States. Once we go into Tuesday morning, that is when that low pressure system will cross over the Rocky Mountains. It'll be centered probably in the Central Plains or so as we go into Tuesday afternoon. What we need to watch for going into Tuesday evening is the potential for severe storms to fire up anywhere from Oklahoma back into the Midwest. I do think overall the threat of severe weather on Tuesday will be a little bit harder to come by. With that being said, what we'll need to be watching for in particular with the severe weather setup will be the potential for storms primarily in the Midwest. I think the Midwest is actually going to be the main target zone as we go into Tuesday evening with this severe weather setup. I don't think we're going to see nearly as significant of severe weather back down into Texas and Oklahoma. I just don't think all the ingredients are there for more of a significant severe weather event there. I think the likelihood is a bit higher back over in the Midwest with the current guidance from the computer models. Once we go into Wednesday morning, a few different things we need to watch for, one of which will be the potential for a winter storm on the backside of this low pressure system. Secondly, we'll also have to watch for severe weather to start to ramp up going into Wednesday morning. I do think we're going to have more of a linear line of storms as we go into Wednesday. This will produce mainly a damaging wind threat, but multiple tornadoes would not be impossible with this sort of setup from the Ohio Valley back into the Dixie Alley. Once we go into late Wednesday night, the potential for a winter storm does exist in the Midwest, but exactly how much snow falls, will we see ice, is also a thing that we'll have to be watching for and also thinking to ourselves about, is there a potential for ice? Well, yes, in this setup, there actually is a threat for ice, so we'll have to watch for that closely, but exactly where this happens is still pretty uncertain, and exactly how much ice or snow we see is also uncertain. Once we go into Wednesday night, that line of storms moves across areas from Alabama back into New York, and then once we go into Thursday, those showers and storms will start to move off coast, and then we'll be done with this large storm by late Thursday into Friday. So this will be a pretty elongated event. It starts Tuesday, it goes all the way through Thursday, so it's gonna be about a 3-day event. One of the biggest ingredients that we have with this particular severe weather setup is actually the low level jet. This gives us an idea of the rotation in the lower levels, and we have a very strong southwesterly flow anywhere from the Midwest back into the southern plains, and this will allow for anywhere where there are supercells that develop. An example is like Illinois. The low level jet being around 60 knots will make it a little bit easier for there to be a couple of tornadoes with any discrete supercells. And then once we go into Wednesday, that low level jet will be the strongest on Wednesday, which is why I'm most concerned right now for Wednesday. There is a much more favorable environment here when it comes to the low level jet. With all this being said, this severe weather setup is not perfect by any means, basically meaning that we're not slam dunking this as a tornado outbreak or even a severe weather outbreak yet, because not all the ingredients are there necessarily, at least being maximized, and as well as the timing. The timing is definitely off with some of these computer models in terms of the subtropical jet stream and a lot of other features, but this is what we're looking at going into Tuesday into Wednesday. The moisture will lift off to the north. Notice this by Tuesday evening. We will have dew points in the mid to upper 50s and low 60s, which is supportive of severe weather, but with that being said, dew points in the upper 50s do not create a ton of buoyancy. So that's one thing that we need to pay attention to here, is that we do not, again, have a perfect severe weather setup, at least on Tuesday. I do think, again, Wednesday will have a bit more of a favorable severe weather setup, especially back down in southern Kentucky, back into Tennessee, and as well as back into Alabama and Mississippi, where more moisture will be available, and as well as buoyancy. And also the storm fuel, which is instability, is available again as we go into Tuesday, we'll definitely have a lot of that across areas in the Midwest, but it's not perfect. Again, the timing is a little bit off right now with the current setup. Once we go into Wednesday, again, there will be a little bit better of a setup there for more severe weather. But again, make sure you stay tuned. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest as everything evolves, because again, there are still some uncertain details here, exactly how big or how intense a severe weather event will be. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.